Next on the agenda will be the Josh Adams ARPC presentation.
Sir, good to meet y'all. So I'm here to introduce
Let me get your name.
Josh Adams. I'm with the Appalachia Regional Planning Council. And so I'm here to introduce the SHARK project. That's not the carnivorous fish. That's the Shoreline Habitats and Resilience Coast project. And we have been working with FDOT District 3, Apalachicola National Estuarine Research Reserve. And now we're here to show you the project, the results of it, and some of the next steps. And to do that, I've brought Rick Harder with me from E&E. He's been working on the project for a number of years and is married to it and has a lot more information that he can provide than I can. So without further ado, here is Rick.
Thank you. Rick Harder with Ecology and Environment. As Josh said, we're going to talk a little bit about this study that we did. We call it SHARK for short, Shoreline Habitats and Resilient Coasts. And really what we were doing was trying to figure out, okay, there's a lot of restoration money out there, whether it's Deepwater Horizon funding, there's lots of different pots associated with that. There's also federal money associated with coastal resiliency and habitat restoration through the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and National Fish and Wildlife Foundation has other funds. So there's a lot of money out there to fund what's now called living shorelines. So basically what that means is using natural habitats for not only ecological purposes of providing habitat for fish, but also recognizing that those provide some ability to reduce the amount of wave energy hitting the shoreline. So they can be strategically placed and strategically used. This is actually a project I worked on nearly 20 years ago in Pensacola. It's called Project Green Shores. This was one of the first. So basically there's a rock breakwater and then some marsh protecting, actually, ironically, Highway 98, but way over in Pensacola. That's been an award-winning project. This is a diagram that sort of shows the spectrum of gray infrastructure. Strictly gray infrastructure would be like a seawall or a rock revetment. And then green infrastructure would be just vegetation. But the idea here is, well, what about everything in between? And there's these hybrids where you can use some sort of engineered structures or engineered habitats to help increase the ability of some of those green habitats to function. And all of these can be used to stabilize shorelines where there's chronic erosion occurring. So what we did is we looked at all of the shorelines of the interior waters of Apalachicola Bay, so about 274 miles of shoreline. We did not look at the Gulf side beaches, so not like the Gulf side of St. George Island, but we did look at the bay side. And we wanted to assess a number of things. Where is habitat needed, both from an ecological perspective, but also from a cultural or community resiliency aspect? So where do we have infrastructure that's at risk of being damaged from erosion? We looked at what areas are suitable from the waves to the water depths. We looked at ownership to, kind of focusing more on putting a higher priority on public parcels or and public infrastructure. We looked at best value. Bigger projects are more cost efficient because you can spread your mobilization costs over a bigger area and your design and permitting costs over a bigger area. And we also looked in terms of best value. What's the best value to the public? Which areas are going to be most accessible to the public? And then constructability. Which ones can you get to easiest or have the best characteristics for creating new shoreline habitats? So we looked at, we gathered a lot of different data, spatial data, GIS map data, and and I'm not going to read through all this. I just show you this long list just so you can see a lot of the things that we looked at. Where are building footprints and septic tanks and archaeological resources? Where are the roads? We looked at erosion rates and the wave energy, which is fetch. We looked at the water depth. So we looked at all of these different things, basically put them into a GIS analysis using a lot of different algorithms to put heavier weights on certain factors, like we put a very high weight on roads, because as we all know, after a hurricane, you know, the road goes out and it disrupts, serious disruption every day for people, you know, adding sometimes hours to your short commute, what used to be a short commute. So I'm going to kind of jump forward. These are some of the results. This is just one of those topics that we looked at. This is existing marsh. So the areas you see there that are red and orange and yellow are areas where there is no intertidal marsh nearby. Now, that's not good if you're a fish or a bird that wants some marsh for cover or needs a place to feed. We looked at roads. So what areas do we have a road in close proximity to the shoreline? I know it's very hard to read, but the blue is, those are areas where the shoreline is within 20 meters, or about 66 feet or so of the water's edge. That's pretty close. And that's, the pink is within 40 meters. So, I mean, of course, this corresponds very closely with all of the areas that Anderson-Columbia is out there right now repairing, right? So all of those factors then combined into a bigger analysis where we took each of those topics and all of the things that had to do with habitat need, we then weighted those and looked at, okay, which areas are really in need of habitat, that intertidal marsh habitat. And again, the blue and the pinks are and even the oranges too, but the blue and the pink are the areas that need habitat the most. I'm going to jump forward. What about community resiliency? Or where are our public assets, community assets, and even private ones too, at risk? Again, you've got the blue and the pink are those hot spots. Then we combine all of those factors of the constructability, the need, all of those different factors into a composite analysis, and really came up with this. Again, the blue end of the spectrum is the areas of highest need and highest opportunity. So we compiled that list into several tiers of priorities, and there is a report that the Regional Planning Council just finished up and has submitted to the funding agency, which in this case was Florida DEP, using NOAA money. And the top priority site, really this incorporates both the top priority site and one of the second tier priority sites. So the area between the East Point, Breakwater, and Carabel Beach. This is just kind of big picture, not necessarily specifically from those locations, but generally in this vicinity, this part of the bay, there's a big opportunity and there's a big need, as we can tell just from looking at the road damage. So really it's kind of, how do we take the next step? Recognizing that we've got to go slowly, we've got to do a lot of careful planning, and we really need to make sure we address any concerns.
Hey, Rick?
Yes.
Can I interrupt a minute?
Sure.
Focus over there on your Alligator Point model relative to your scale, your color
Yes.
scales.
Yes.
And that approximate 120 linear feet of what we call the washed out road at Alligator Point, it seems you have your colors not correct there. Is that because it is the highest priority with the lowest resiliency and it's so close to the water? Does that relate?
The reason it's not showing up in that sense is because that's on the Gulf side, and
Yeah.
this analysis is for the Bay side. So
All the analyses are on the bay side.
all of this analysis for the Bay side. So when
I
you
see.
and it just looks like it's the whole point just because it's so skinny,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Okay.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, if this analysis did include the Gulf shoreline as well, it would score top score, right? But because we're talking about intertidal marsh and the types of habitats,
I see.
they're not
Okay.
suitable for the Gulf front beaches. So
I see.
that's why it was not part of it.
Okay.
Good question. Although interestingly, the the bay side of Alligator Point did score pretty highly too. So, all right, so jumping forward kind of into the next steps of, okay, so if we were going to pursue some planning of a potential project, this would be probably a good place to start. And here's just some pictures, what it looks like when you go down to the water's edge. Some places you'll see old timber seawalls, followed by several layers of different kinds of riprap. DOT has worked very hard at armoring this. We've got some articulated concrete block. You've got multiple layers of seawalls in some places. And all of these have as man-made structures, they've got a limited lifespan. I mean, they've served their useful life. And then it costs a lot of money to come in and keep rebuilding that, maintaining that. So what can we do to use some natural habitats to help protect the structures and the shoreline while providing some significant ecological benefits? So I want to point out just one area in particular, just as evidence that these types of habitats can and do survive given the right conditions in this area. So this is the pier, or I should say was the pier at Gramercy Plantation. This is before the storm and after the storm. You've got a marsh out here. It's different times of the year, so you've got, it's kind of brownish here because it's in the fall or the winter. And then here, this is late spring, so it's green. But you can see the marsh is still there. But the other thing I want to point out is, and this is the same place from above. Well, that didn't work right. Anyways, this is after the storm. I wanted to point out, here's the pier, here's the marsh, and you see this sand that's captured there and stable? This is after the storm, right? You'd think that sand shouldn't be there, right? But it is. And the reason that the sand is there is because the marsh is there. And the reason the marsh can survive is because of all the pilings that were here. Not saying that we need to build pilings everywhere, just saying we need to have the right wave conditions to allow for that. Now, there we go. Okay, so kind of the next steps is really, let's get the stakeholders involved, with the county being really a key stakeholder in that. And to start heading in that direction, the county has submitted a request for a planning grant to hold some stakeholder meetings. That's all it is at this point. It's just stakeholder meetings. I believe you're still waiting on a response from them, whether or not that'll be funded. And then there are other funding opportunities out there, one of which already has somewhat of a commitment, and that is Florida DEP's Coastal Management Program has offered up $125,000 to the Regional Planning Council, and they're in the process of going through the paperwork to finalize that. But that, again, that's just conceptual planning. And the key here is to get all the stakeholders, the property owners, DOT, the county, and everybody at the table and say, okay, what areas do we want to see some habitat? What areas don't we want to change? There are sandy beaches that people want to keep as sandy beaches, and that's totally fine. There are sandbars that we want to keep as sandbars so people can go out wade fishing. That's fine. It doesn't need to be, and I think it shouldn't be, a continuous marsh along 6 or 7 miles of shoreline, but there are some key areas where it might be appropriate. I do know, and I understand that there are some potential concerns about, okay, well, are we creating a sort of a nuisance, a potential problem where, okay, we're telling people we're going to create a bunch of oyster habitat and everybody's going to come down there and gather oysters, and then people are going to, not do it at the right time, or they're not going to handle them properly and they're going to get sick. We don't want that to happen. You don't want it to happen. Nobody wants that to happen. I really believe that this project can help minimize the chances of that happening. And I'm going to jump forward a couple slides just to point out a couple, or make a point here, and that is, right now you have, this is a picture right off the shore. That's 2 feet from the water's edge. So that risk exists right now. But one of the things that this project could do and I would recommend that it does, although it's really up to kind of the planning process and the stakeholders and DOT and others. One thing that you can do is to kind of bury this ugly riprap and plant some vegetation over it, not only making it look better, but making it safer. And essentially, the reefs that could be used to reduce the wave energy would be pushed farther outshore. So rather than having those oysters right at the water's edge, these would be subtidal reefs farther offshore, and less likely to be picked up. There could be signage if there's an area where there's still a concern that people might go out and harvest oysters in an unsafe way. Signage could be used. But one of the key concepts I wanted to point out here is your typical living shoreline projects are more like the one on the left here. It's a very unnatural looking, very close to shore, breakwater, rectangular structures, and what we really would be striving for would be a more natural look, something that is essentially mimicking something more similar to what Mother Nature would provide. So I've kind of jumped all around in areas here. I guess the bottom line is we're at the point now of holding stakeholder meetings. We look forward to working with you on that and coming up with a plan that meets the needs of all the stakeholders, including the property owners, DOT, the county, and others. There could be ways to include other entities or groups in this. There's the Conservation Corps of the Forgotten Coast doing job training on environmental type restoration work. There could be some work associated with this project that would give them a project to do. There are lots of potential ideas, and I don't want to go down rabbit trails right here, but I think there could be ways to involve the seafood industry in either building, maintaining, harvesting, or somehow being involved in the reefs development or the long-term health of the reefs. These are areas generally that you don't have reefs now. It's not harvesting area that, in other words, it wouldn't interfere with any harvesting areas, but it would provide additional oysters out there to increase the spat count and improve the water quality, thereby enhancing the potential catch. I'll just add there are a couple other potential funding sources out there, one of which is the Coastal Resilience Fund with National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, or NIFWF. That's different from the Gulf Environmental Benefit Fund, which is the Deepwater Horizon Fund. This Coastal Resilience Fund is $29 million nationwide, but it focuses on areas, including areas that were impacted by storms, so this qualifies for that. This is also just a high priority area for them in general. I think there's a really good chance of getting funding for that. The Appalachia Regional Planning Council submitted a pre-proposal for that process, and apparently NIFWF liked the project enough they invited them to submit a full proposal. So that $125,000 in DEP money will be used to satisfy the match requirement for the NIFWF funding if the NIFWF funding comes through. And then, although I don't have it on here, there was a request from the Department of Interior looking for projects that satisfied the goals of the Secretary of the Department of Interior. And the Regional Planning Council put forth this as a potential project. It was a very short turnaround. It was like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they said, hey, we're looking for ideas and we need them by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I don't think there's probably a lot of people that threw their project in the hat. So who knows, maybe this is one of those they'll pick up. And then there's all the Deepwater Horizon Fund out there, not trying to tap into your local funding, because I know this county has other issues that are top priority. But some of those other funding pots that are more regional, I think this would have a really good chance of getting some funding to bring that money into the county. And I didn't even touch on the ecotourism value that a project like this might have, or both on the water side for kayaking and fishing, but also from the people driving by in terms of it's already a scenic byway. It would be a big enhancement to that. So with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions you have.
I have one. Just on the Carabel River, how far does it come down all the way to the mouth of the river on you? Turn back to it.
In terms of the potential project, no, it would not go that far. I would say it would stop before it gets to Carabel Beach, for two reasons. One being the current use. Carabel Beach is a beach, and
Yeah, but I got over here on the Carabel River, the one you got.
That's his,
Yeah.
that's his projected place
Okay.
right there.
So the Carabel River's coming out over here. Edge of Carabel Beach would be about here. So I'm thinking, somewhere between this side of Carabel Beach and the East Point Breakwater.
Okay.
And the other thing that I did not bring up, I know there are plans moving forward, and I'm glad to see that, to dredge this area and build a marsh there. This could dovetail in with that very well. Especially if you consider the fact that the material, the sand that is in this channel here, largely has washed down the shoreline from here. So if we can help capture some of that sediment where it's supposed to be, or potentially even put some of it back, there's always the option that, or the opportunity that this project could help keep that channel open longer term. It won't have to be dredged as frequently.
So let me say that one more time. So are you saying that some of the spoil that we remove from the dredging project could be used for your project?
Well, it could, but I know the Corps already has a plan to build a marsh on the outside here, putting it in a geotube and filling behind there. So I don't want to slow that project down. I don't want to interrupt any process there, but it's it's just one thing that's worth considering.
The benefit, it would let us dredge more if we don't fill up our licensed dredge site and could use it for their project, but okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I clarify something?
Sure.
I think what he was saying, maybe we misunderstood it. The problem we have with East Point Channel in particular,
Uh-huh.
everything that's in our channel used to be beside the road between Carroll and East Point.
Right.
And
Yeah.
putting the living
Oh.
shorelines is gonna help slow that action down.
Okay.
That's
see
one
what-
thing I said,
That's
but
what- Right,
but he's also correct. You're both correct.
yeah.
We'll put it this way. If the Corps runs into a situation here where they decide, oh no, we can't build the marsh, what do we do with the fill? I got a spot for it, right?
Sounds good.
Good. Yeah, you be sure to tell them that.
Sounds good. Don't worry, I will.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
number one, they're not gonna let you use the field out of East Point Channel to do this project. It has to be contained in a certain place, but what he was trying to reference was the Corps' plan is once they get that up there, then they're gonna plant a marsh outside of that to keep that from filling back, inside and outside, to keep it from filling back in the channel. That's part of the plan. Now, as you reference the project, I'm not what you would call against the project. I'm very much aware of living shorelines, and living shorelines can be done a number of different ways. I am the one that is worried about the oyster, because if one person eats an oyster and they get sick, and those deaths, if they die, count against the state of Florida, which brings down more regulations from your federal agencies as to how you can harvest oysters in Apalachicola Bay. So I am the one worried about that. That can be addressed by proper signage stating every so often through this project that these oysters that might be found are not fit for human consumption.
Yep.
As you referenced, and I talked to Chris early on when this first began, and that was one of my issues, because I know how the regulations work for FDA and how they look at over 14 deaths in the state of Florida brings down additional, such as your closures that we have right now. You got to be in from harvesting at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
If these deaths increase, then they'll stop oystering in the summertime altogether, which right now is not a bad thing. The other issue is a lot of people between the East Point Breakwater and Carabel Beach, a lot of people mullet fish over there. How will they get across these reefs? How will they get across the marshes that we're looking at putting there to stop the erosion on Highway 98. I'm sure DOT is 100% behind this project, and I am too. But these are issues that need to be addressed when you're doing your stakeholder meetings, the 5 meetings, and dealing with your recreational fishermen that like to wade fish, or whether they want to throw a cast net.
Yep.
Are there certain areas that we can have that still allow them to have that ability? If not, they're gonna come to our meeting here, and they're gonna burn us up, because now we can't mullet fish. And mullet fishing has been regulated almost completely out of business for the commercial fishermen, but the recreational fishermen can still throw his net and get a mess of mullet to eat. So see, these are some of the things that need to be addressed. I'm not opposed to the project. I'm not opposed to building a type living shoreline that we can get along with here in our traditional rich fishing area. But I do want the proper signage that states that these oysters, if you plant an oyster reefs out there, to break the wave action down. And this is not the only place that this is happening. It's happening around the mouth of the Mississippi River. In Louisiana, the Nature Conservancy is real big in that. There's a mile from your nearest marshland out to the open Gulf of Mexico, which used to be marshland, which breaks down your surge, your storm surge, which enhance. So I'm aware of all that's going on up and down the coast and why it's going on. And I think this will be a advantageous product to help protect Highway 98 during a storm event. And it's all most of it's natural vegetation, so I'm not opposed to it, but it's got to be done right.
I couldn't agree more.
And you have to pay attention to what the public wants and expects. And also, the oyster issue is a big issue for me. But other than that, I don't have a problem with moving forward. I don't have a problem, if the board so desired, writing letters of support when it comes to getting funding from these different sources. And I think it would be very advantageous for your project to ask the board for those letters of support.
That's next on my item here. I just wanted,
But these issues that I'm bringing to you has to be addressed.
absolutely.
If it's not addressed, then I will try to persuade this board to be against the project.
I
So
understand.
you understand where I'm coming from and why.
I do.
It's not, I don't eat oysters. I do support our oyster industry and everybody in it.
Yep.
But I do understand the different regulations that will come down if something bad turns to worse. So make sure we have proper signage and make sure you get input from your local fishermen so they can still access their traditional fishing waters. And if you put reefs right outside of some of these places, then if they throw a net over your reef, then they're going to tear the net
Right,
up and
we don't
still
want
not going to catch no fish. So these things have to be addressed. And other than that, I'm 100% behind your project.
Okay, and I would love to find out. We want every stakeholder who has an interest to be involved in the design, conceptual design, preliminary design process. And I plans to meet with Shannon Hartsfield later today, and any other groups that have an interest. We certainly want them there. And then of course the property owners, because a lot of those properties come out and have their house may be on the landward side of the road, but they still own a strip along the seaward side of the road.
One more comment, Mr. Chairman. They just did a living shoreline behind the Ainer building in East Point, if everybody remembers. And I brought these same issues to them, but that's right behind their building, and they agreed to provide oversight and watch that living shoreline and make sure that no oysters were harvested there and sent to market, because they're so near shore that they're in a non-harvestable area, a closed water area. But they agreed to provide that oversight because it's right behind their building. In this case, there'll be nobody there to provide oversight.
Right.
So that's a big concern of mine. But having the proper signage there and having public access where these guys can still go out and catch a mess of mullet or a mess of crabs or whatever they traditionally do there are very important issues.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then we'll make sure that we address those through the conceptual planning process and have those mullet fishermen and the oystermen and everybody else at those meetings and involved in the conversations. But back to your point that you beat me to it on, asking for a recommendation or a letter of support. The NIFWIF proposal that the Regional Planning Council is working on now is coming up due in the next 3 weeks, I believe. And it would be wonderful to have a letter of support from the County Commission supporting that project. And again, that project is just for the preliminary design. And it includes additional stakeholder meetings above and beyond what you've asked for from the Department of Economic Opportunity.
Down in Alligator Harbor. Now, you got them boys growing oysters in their baskets down there. If you start there, you need to check with them, don't disturb where they gonna be.
Yeah, we're not going to go, this project would not go that far. This,
Okay.
this does not go any further east than Carabel Beach.
Okay.
And will this be money neutral to us? You're going to go and find the money to do this, and we're going to enjoy the benefit.
Correct. This
that
is the
correct?
kind of project, that there are a lot of entities out there that want to fund, and I anticipate that it would be $0 coming from you. I would anticipate that it would be plus dollars coming to you in the form of jobs and ecotourism, really.
How long do you think the time frame will be before we begin to see some potential benefit?
Okay, so I would
Project start.
expect that it's going to be, let's roughly say the year 2020 for the preliminary design, maybe the year 2021 to finalize the design and all the permitting, and so it's probably at least 2 years out before any kind of construction is done. So plenty of time. Again, we want lots of stakeholder input and make sure that we've got the right design that meets everybody's needs.
I know.
So I don't know if that letter of support is something that the county manager could.
Well, let me ask you a question. So, up until then, it'll be in the study period one. I don't like studies. I never did. Don't help my people work, but pledge of the board.
I'll make a motion that we send a letter, any letter of support, Michael, they need to, gain the funding to move this project forward. So long as he is listening to what I've said as far as the stakeholder input and
Yes, sir.
proper signage incorporated into this project, I think it'll be very good for all our county employees trying to travel 98 back and forth to Carabel every day, and all of us traveling that road, because it is about beat my vehicle to pieces since October. And if anything we can do to help stabilize that shoreline, which will help stabilize the road, I think is a good thing. And I'll make the motion that we send the letters of support as requested.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Massey. Now, don't get me wrong, you're not the first one I told that. Won't be the last. I like to see people go to work.
He likes less meetings.
Understood.
I like more.
Understood. We don't want to rush it and come up with something that is going to be a problem for people, and that's why we've been kind of slow coming to this point.
The problem be that during them studies, the box be empty, the ice box. That's what y'all ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Do your study.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
The letter.
Thank you, Rick.
You can leave the laptop right there, Sarah's gonna use it. Big RPC meeting up in here, huh?
Pretty close.
Next on the agenda will be,
Oh, okay. She says she didn't have a presentation.
Oh, but she needs a laptop for the website though.
Oh, the web.
Yeah. Sarah just hit escape.
Sarah Hubbard.
Yeah, and there's your tab.
This the ARPC presentation, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
Commissioner, if you remember, I kind of gave you guys a quick glimpse into it, but now it's finished and Sarah's ready to give you a full presentation.
Go ahead, Miss Sarah. Let me get your name for the record, please.
My name is Sarah Hibbard. I'm with the Appalachia Regional Planning Council as well.
Okay.
So this morning, I'm really happy to show you guys our new GIS and mapping website for the Appalachia region. Included in that is, of course, Franklin County. So I'm going to go over the basic functionality of the website as well as how it's organized and some of the examples of Franklin County's interactive maps. So I'm trying to figure out as this scrolls. So I have 4 categories that the maps are organized by. I have explore, learn, plan and invest, and county by county. The first 3 categories allow users to explore by a certain topic, and the last category allows them to explore by area. So I do have this data downloads page that allows users to explore some of the open data websites that I used to make these maps, as well as contact the ARPC for information that they might not be able to find on these open data websites. So I'm going to jump to... So here's Franklin County's page. It holds the future land use map, the existing land use map, demographics map, and a utilities water systems map. So I'm going to go through some of these relatively quickly. So this first one here is the interactive future land use map. If it'll load. Okay, there we go. And I got these descriptions from the county's comprehensive plan, the future land use element, excuse me. And users can scroll through and look at a specific category, and it isolates the category that is associated with the description. They can either go in order, or they can click on a category that they're interested in looking at. And this map, like all the other maps on this website, is for reference use. It's not to be used for any major decision making. And any questions before I move on to the next one? Okay. So here is what we call the existing land use map. This holds the zoning and parcel boundary layers. And this one gives you a little bit more freedom than the last map, where the last map actually had like a narrative to go along with this. This one you can kind of just explore on your own using these tools up here. You can turn the legend on and off. You can turn layers on and off, and you can change the base map. You can use the print widget to make a PDF version of this that's easier to print. And let's see, turn off some layers. So you can kind of click on a parcel, and it'll give you more information on it. And you can search for a specific parcel using the search bar up top. And you can, of course, zoom in and out too. It's having trouble.
You know, ma'am,
Yeah.
this is a real overview of some of your category examples, like zoning.
Mm-hmm.
This is an overview of what all the different zone categories are. And so, would I be correct in that statement before making a follow-up?
An overview as in, like...
The big picture of different areas of the geography and different zones we currently have in our comprehensive planning?
Yes,
Okay.
these are zoning categories, and I think I have them here. It explains what they are specifically in the details.
I think this is very important as we deliberate zoning changes here in this county.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some personality through here already that has asked us to do some zoning changes, and the presentation was quality and the reasons were needed, and there was a lot of issues there. And we never saw this before. To present this is the baseline at the beginning of the decisions of zoning processing. And I think this appears to be very valuable from that standpoint. So I'm making these affirmation statements. Am I correct in what you're trying to show me?
I did get these maps from the county itself.
Yeah.
I haven't made any changes.
Okay. Yeah, but you're overlaying it with GPS technology, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can get latitude and longitude coordinates of all these addresses and pieces of property and be specific about where they are geographically.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Maybe not specifically using this map, but with other GIS tools you could. So this next one is an interactive demographics map. I got this information from the American Community Survey, specifically for the year 2017. The reason why I did 2017 is because it's the latest iteration of complete data that they have for these. So I have it organized into different block groups, and you can use the layers tab to kind of turn things on and off because it's kind of hard to see all the information all at once. So, and if you want more information, like raw numbers, you could click on a block group and it'll give you information like median household income, raw population number, and a bar graph showing what people are doing in terms of industry occupation in the block group. Other things like that. Let's see. And this one right here is median age, and you can check out the legend and it'll tell you what these colors actually mean. All right. Any questions? So this next one here is water systems map. I was working with Mark Carrington in your planning department to get context for these informations. Fortunately, I don't have every single water system in the county, but I do have pretty detailed maps of Alligator Point and St. George Island, as well as some service areas for the county too. So I'm gonna go ahead and change the base map. On here. So you can see better maybe. There we go. So right now, right here, what we're seeing is part of Alligator Point, and they had some maps that were really detailed to the point where I was actually able to organize them by pipe diameter. And I got these from PDF maps that they had in their water systems office. And I also have locations of septic tanks and potable water locations. Let me go ahead and show you guys. St. George Island. So yeah, here's St. George Island, but they are not organized by pipe diameter. They it's just an overlay of generally where the pipes are.
So Sarah, let me ask, if we are able to get you other water and sewer districts, will you add those to the?
Yeah,
map?
sure.
Okay.
Mike, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
my question is can you put a link to this on the county website
Already there.
already there?
Already
And
there.
Because it'd be very beneficial to realtors, to people interested in buying property, and they'll know exactly what property they're looking at and what its zoning category is,
And the-
which would eliminate a lot of questions and a lot of applications that cannot be granted because they're in the wrong zone for what they're wanting to do.
That's
Yeah.
right, that's right.
And-
Number one, though, is how do you notify the public that this is already on the website? Because this discussion's never come up before.
Yeah.
So would it be appropriate to wake up the paper man and have him doing an advertisement so that the public would know where to go and find this
Yeah.
resource?
A nice news story would be really, really.
It really
nice.
would.
Yeah, yeah.
It really would.
It sure would be. And a couple of things, the link on the website goes directly to the Franklin County maps. It doesn't go to Appalachian land, it goes directly to Franklin
Okay.
County. So the searching that Sarah's doing right now, anybody using it wouldn't have to do that. As they click it, it opens up in Franklin County.
Okay.
And they get to pick from those maps.
Well, that's good.
That she has.
So the landing page is actually Franklin County?
Yes,
Okay.
Okay.
yes.
And
I was thinking we had to go to Appalachian and then
No, sir.
access the link, but that's not necessarily the case. Okay.
you
But you know, there's something else too to complement what you're saying, Commissioner Parrish, and that is, it's my feeling that when people are wanting to buy property in this county, the first thing you do is to take your realtor in hand and come to our building and planning department to start talking about what the whole basis of planning is to buy your property. Not before you pay, but while you're considering. And this, I think, this link may be something to encourage the public and the realtors in this community working with their clients.
So, what you're trying to tell me, Commissioner, we don't have to accept the excuse in there anymore that when they come in there and said, but my realtor told me
Yeah,
I could do X, Y, Z. Is that what
that's a
you're
good point. It's all public. That would be appropriate.
trying-
Yeah.
That's
And-
happened quite a bit, especially on Dog Island, comes to mind, where realtors sell people a piece of property that's not big enough to be developed.
Yeah.
And we run into that, if y'all remember, a couple of years ago, where somebody used their life savings to buy a piece of property that we cannot issue a permit for. This would help eliminate some of those issues.
Yeah, he moved from Oregon down there and bought the property and couldn't build.
And so, I know Sarah has, have a little bit more. I just want to remind you that this is the contract that Commissioner Jones and Attorney Schuler have been working on with ARPC. This is the fruit of that contract. So I think it's well worth it. Well worth it.
It is. She's doing a good job.
And this whole website, actually, the whole concept was funded by a Department of Economic Opportunity technical assistance grant. And with the interlocal agreement, we can add on to and add more Franklin County maps to the website. And you can use the URL at the top to link directly to the map without going to the website if you choose. Like if you click the link on the Franklin County website, you
Yeah.
can go straight to the map.
It is, if you do me a favor and type in franklincountyflorida.com up
Okay.
there. I want to show them exactly what I mean.
Okay.
Yep. Click on the resources tab, the last tab,
FranklinCounty.com.
right down to GIS map. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Or you,
I went too far.
yeah, one down to GIS map, click right there,
Need a map.
Oh,
and there we go.
cool.
That's what everybody else sees.
Good.
Yeah.
FranklinCounty.com, need a map.
Yeah, I think that's important that the user of that website understands what all those letters mean and how you can help maintain zoning consistencies. And it is a map, but it's also a tool that needs to be taught to the public on how to use it. Is there a tutorial built into this?
No, not yet, but I can make one.
Can you? That would be very helpful to be just as user-friendly as possible.
Yes, I can definitely do that.
What we could do, Sarah, actually, we use Royce to create a tutorial for our permitting software. If you remember when we first went online, I'll probably do the same thing. We could do the same thing with Royce.
Okay.
You know, sit down, him and Amy and Mark could sit down and figure something out. That would work well. My question is, Sarah, where do we go from here? What else do you think we should have on this map? What other features should we add to it for future planning?
For like whole maps in general.
As a GIS map, what's some of the other counties? What do they have that we don't have?
I know Leon County has they have school district locator maps, district commissioner district maps, stuff like that. They have
like
interactive
that.
maps where they show infrastructure projects being done, so people will know like I guess what's going on in
Okay.
terms of public works in their county. Leon County has a lot.
I would ask if you ever, a county related to our size and what we do, if you ever think of something we should do, don't hesitate to send me an email.
Okay.
I'll bring it up to the board, we can explain it to them, and then from there we go.
Okay.
Ms. Sarah, what about the identifying oyster beds that are non-viable, that we actually have information about? We've talked about this recently. Is there a way of actually doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that
would
as
give-
long as I
would
can
give
get
some
that information.
Some real function in terms of a depleting industry we see here.
Your oyster beds is on your chart, your
GPS.
GPS chart, all you gotta do is pull them up from FWC and then puts them out, they own your chart.
So you do, and so would that be, complement that chart and blend it with what you have here?
Yeah, I can link it. I can either link it to the website or I can add it as a layer to one of the maps that I have on
That'd be
here.
a waste of time right now, ain't nothing on the ball.
Well, it would be a waste of time not to go, I mean, you couldn't go there now, but at least we know where it is and the public knows where it is and,
No, I'm talking about it's all right to go there, but it just ain't no occupancy.
nothing there, that's right. And then there's people who want to restore those beds.
Yeah.
Potentially saying, yep, here's where we want our money spent to restore that bed, and there it is, provable. Can we link it and do that that
Yeah,
sophisticated?
Yeah, just give me the information. I can.
I'll tell you, what we'll discuss is
Yeah.
whether I should put a direct link from the map they're referring to, or you integrate it into the GIS map.
I can. I could do a direct link if it'll make things easier.
Okay.
And or if you guys do want, I don't know, is it interactive yet or?
Yeah, I'll have to look at it and see. I'll send you the link. You can look
Okay.
and let me know.
Because if you
Thank
guys do, if it's not interactive already and you do want to make it interactive, I can try to put it on one of these maps. And in the meantime, we can link it on here.
What's
Mr.
that?
Chairman,
Go ahead.
this is, Commissioners, this is the first rollout of what they're doing. That's why when I think we're gonna talk about later under Attorney Schuler's report, we're doing an agreement with ARPC. So this is just the first, it's not gonna be done and just left alone. We're doing an agreement, so if there's any maps we wanna have added or something changes with the land use or some of that nature, it can be added and it's kept up to date. So that's part of what we're doing, just to clarify, because I believe that's what most of the questions are about. This is just the beginning, this is not the end.
Yes, you're correct.
The beginning of an informational
Right, right.
purpose.
Who pays for all this?
Well, in the beginning, the Department of Economic Opportunity funded the website, and we are actually going for a phase 2, in which we are reaching out to specific municipalities and doing a this future land use map thing for them. So we'll keep updating the website too.
Good.
And with interlocal agreements with the counties if they're interested in doing even more on top of this.
That's it. Thank you, sir. Well,
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, that was actually the last map that
That was
I wanted to show you. So, thank you for having me this morning.
You've done a good job.
Thank you.
And it's good information.
Mm-hmm.
It's good information, and in the future, you know, if we add on that, all the information you can put out there to help people in the area. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Y'all done a good job.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Do you want me to exit out of all this, or?
Oh, I got it.
Okay.
We're good.
Cool. Thank you.
You need time to break that down, or it's all right like that?
No, sir, we can continue.
Okay. Next on the agenda will be Miss Marcia Johnson. Clerk of the Court. Thank you, ma'am. Next on the agenda will be Mr. Allen Pierce. Did he leave anything?
I try my best to get him to FaceTime, he just won't, but he just won't agree to it. I don't know what he's doing, he don't want us to see, but I have a couple items from his report. Item number 1, inform the board that the Corps personnel met with Commissioner Jones, Allen, myself, on June 19th in East Point to review the East Point Channel project. Commissioner Massey actually was scheduled to attend, but then the Corps changed their time at the last minute, so he couldn't just run away like that. But we updated him by phone. During the week of June 24th to 28th, the Corps returned to the channel and took core borings to determine the amount of material to be dredged from the channel. The disposal area will be a 26-acre marsh to be created on the outside of the breakwater. The breakwater will have a hard border so that the spoil does not drift back into the channel. I guess what we were just talking about earlier. On paper, the channel is 100 feet wide by 8 feet deep, from Barber Seafood on the east to the county boat ramp on the west, and then the T going out into the open waters of the bay. The Corps believes it can accomplish the dredging waters of the bay, with the money authorized by Congress, which is $2 million. So at this time, the Corps does not need any of the county's consortium funds for the East Point project. The Corps does not have a congressional allocation to dredge the 2-mile channel, so for that, they will need consortium funds. During the week of June 24th to 28th, they assessed the 2-mile disposal area and will report back to the county staff regarding what they think it will take to get ready for reuse. The most likely scenario is for the county to provide the Corps the funds and let the Corps be in charge of hiring a contractor to rebuild the 2-mile disposal site, and we would use consortium funds to do that. The board has previously indicated that ARPC will be the managing agent for the consortium projects, so the board needs to complete the contract with ARPC. The court thinks it's realistic to be dredging the East Point Channel within 12 months, which would be June of 2020, and then follow up with the dredging of the 2 Mile Channel while the dredge is still in the area.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Michael, as we refer to this, we absolutely need to get, if the ARPC is gonna be the managing agent for this consortium projects, then we need to get this ball rolling. We need to finish up this contract and get them on board. They need to start attending these consortium meetings along with myself, because you only got 1 year now to get this site out here ready for the 2 Mile where we can dredge that channel. And we gotta figure out a way of how we get consortium funds. Are we gonna move those funds to ARPC and then they're gonna move them to the Corps? How's all that gonna work? So I wanna make a motion this morning, to have the board complete this contract with ARPC and get them on board and make sure that they're at the next consortium meetings from every meeting from here on out, so they're
Okay.
aware of what's happening with the consortium and how we can put all this together and make it work. And the time is now, not 6 months from now. We need to get this ball rolling, get the money to the Corps where they can do, rehab the disposal site for 2 Mile Channel, because as you're saying here, they wanna do East Point Channel, they have the money for that. But while they have the dredge here, they wanna go ahead and do 2 Mile Channel, which we've got numerous complaints over the last 5 years. Even before Commissioner Jones's place, that 2 Mile Channel was filling in, the shrimp boats can't get out, and that's so bad the guide fishermen can't even use it with an outboard
That's
motor.
bad.
So we need to move forward on this and include the county attorney, and y'all get this contract done. I wanna make that motion this morning.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. Any more discussion?
I think the
Rick,
attorney has.
I just want you to take a copy of this when we're done, because you're gonna need that to capture some of that soil if they can't use it, like you said earlier, okay? Okay.
Yeah, and another thing is, they said, well, this automatic deal, the coast, I mean, them people not gonna, they said they don't have, they not gonna try to do the 2 Mile Channel. I mean, do we need to put a proposal in to both of them for monies?
Oh, no, the Corps is aware that we want to do 2 miles, so they're
I know
starting
they're
the
aware,
process.
but they talking about getting it at the other part of money from the,
The consortium to fund it,
yeah.
yeah, that's what Commissioner Parrish said. That's
I
where
know,
we need to
but-
get ARPC on board immediately to get that.
I guess my question would be, shouldn't we have both of them do the application for both? The Corps too, for them to fund it too? I mean, it ain't gonna hurt, it's not gonna hurt to have. If they turn us down, they already done turned us down, look like.
Michael, can I interject in that? Mr. Chairman, can I interject in that?
Yeah.
From talking to them when we met with them, what's different about this scenario, if you'll remember, Mr. Chairman, dredging both of these channels was in our
Right, when Katrina,
SEP, yeah. Well, no, I'm talking about from now. It was set aside to be done through consortium funds. The difference is, the Corps has now told us that the federal government has given them $2 million to do the East Point project with.
I know what.
So we're
they
being
been
able
had
to roll the
that
money.
They been had the money, they had the money back there when, what that was, Katrina?
Yeah, that
Katrina.
disappeared after Katrina.
Yeah, Katrina
They
hit
took it.
New Orleans and
Mm,
they used it in New Orleans, I guess.
Right. They were in that area, yes.
Yeah, that's what they claim,
Yeah.
where the money went away.
Right.
I put it that way.
But the difference in our approach,
What
Mr.
all
Chairman,
I'm
is
saying
that.
is, all I'm saying, all we doing is filling out an application for both of them, consortium. And like we regularly been filling them out.
Let me interject, please, Mr. Chairman. The reason we're not putting in, I think you're talking about applying to Congress for the money to dredge the channel or the consortium.
Both.
Okay, as you know, we've been applying to Congress for money for the East Point Channel for 10 years.
Yeah.
We can't wait that long because they want to do it next year. So we're gonna and originally we had applied for money through the consortium for both of these channels, like you're
Right.
talking about. But Congress allocated money for the East Point Channel. They did not allocate no money for the 2 Mile Channel. So we have money for the East Point Channel, and we're gonna get the money for the consortium to do the 2-mile channel, because it's within a year or right at a year now. And if we apply to the federal government, it may be 10 years before you hear back from that.
No,
So-
I ain't talking about, I'm not talking about just applying to the Fed. I'm talking about applying to both. Whether it be Congress plus the BP money.
He trying to say, let the Corps, see if they'll give you money for it.
See, yeah.
See if they'll give you money for
All they
what
can do is
the
say
2
yes.
mile.
But they've
It
already,
not gonna, it shouldn't stop no.
they've already told us that Congress hasn't allocated anything for 2 miles.
But
So that'll be next year when they apply for it.
But it's not gonna hold up nothing from what, I guess my question would be, will it hold up the money from the BP money if we apply for both of them?
It shouldn't, Commissioner, it shouldn't hurt in any way. I mean, I think I see what you're saying. You want to use the Congress as a backup, is
Yeah.
what you're basically saying. It shouldn't, I mean, and I'll talk to Alan when he gets back to see what would it take to apply for the other. But we will make sure the consortium is a priority, and we're seeking the money from there.
Yeah,
I'll tell them what you're recommending.
You automatically gonna get that from the consortium.
Yeah,
But if something happen and they get favorable and the Congress wanna give some money, we can use that consortium money somewhere else.
somewhere else. Okay, I see what
But
you're saying.
I mean, I'm not saying drop the consortium. I'm saying do both,
That's a plan B. I got you.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, not a problem, just know that if we go to consortium, once they approve it, we're moving forward, because
Right.
the disadvantage with, using the Congress is that the dredging equipment, we won't be able to sit there and wait.
Right.
So then we'll incur, it'll be more expensive, because then we get
'cause you
mobilization
got to
charges and,
mobile.
all that, so I see what you're saying.
Well,
I'll
what
let
I'm
him
saying
know.
is, first come, first served. If you don't get it from the consortium, get it. But I would put an application to both of them. We've been doing it. I mean, it ain't gonna hurt.
Okay, I
Just
got you.
thought.
But we have to get the disposal area ready now
Yeah,
Yes,
to be ready next year.
Yes.
And we're not gonna get no money from Congress for that. We're gonna have to take it out of the consortium.
yeah.
so we'll move
Yeah.
forward
So
with that.
we
Yes.
gotta move. That was my whole point. We
I
gotta move
think the
now.
attorney was gonna talk to you about the contract before we.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to hold,
Good.
stop no process,
Okay.
but I still wanted both of them to be in the process.
So, can I ask, on your motion here, are you going ahead authorizing the chairman to sign the contract once the attorney is good with it? With
On
the
the
LPC?
ARPC?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's the motion. That's what I want to make sure. We're good.
And it sounds, in your report here, it says to complete.
It's
complete-
done. It's ready for signature. He has the final.
I got,
form.
actually, I got
It
it
says
right.
complete the process.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I guess the process has already started. We just need to complete the contract and get them on board and get them working.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And let's all get going on this.
Y'all ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous.
Okay. Item number 2, Mr. Pierce's report informed the board that Allen did not reach an agreement with the owner of the property at the intersection of Tom Roberts and Alligator Drive regarding the acquisition of a path to straighten out the curve onto Tom Roberts. After consulting with Mr. Schuler on the risk associated with an eminent domain proceeding, Allen has advised Dewberry Engineers that the road will have to be built back in its original configuration. The main risk is that Mr. Schuler believes it is possible a judge would rule the county would have to acquire the entire parcel, not just a right-of-way. Allen had intended to use funds out of the Ballpoint Trust Fund to pay for a right-of-way, but there's not enough money in the trust fund to pay for the entire parcel, which also has a house. The owner of the property has advised Allen that he has sentimental value to the property and does not want to sell any of it. Commissioner Bolton may have additional comments regarding this item.
And I do. About 2 days ago, I had a phone conversation with this property owner and just discussed that I would approach his needs as a newly minted commissioner and try to help him get through some of the dysfunction that he perceives that has happened in the past relative to his property, relative to the washed out road never being sealed, et cetera, et cetera. And I believe I have favor with him to have those discussions, to try to purchase some property of his and facilitate landscaping, facilitate access. And I've just learned also that potentially he has property that can be useful to our Alligator Point Water Resources District in pipelining up around behind his property. So I wouldn't discount this for now. Dewberry and myself and Alan Pierce need to develop a plan of care pictorial and a proposal to him for him to be able to, actually look at money, look at numbers, and look at outcome. And so I want to get that moving the next week or two.
Mr. Chairman, may I clarify something for the record?
Go ahead.
The risk that you're looking at potentially if you do, because what Mr. Pierce is wanting to do is basically to have an acquisition of a corridor of property for the right-of-way purposes, leaving a remainder parcel on this property. So you have one platted lot through which Mr. Pierce is wanting to acquire a corridor, thus leaving a remainder parcel. So really the worst case possible is that you would end up getting the corridor, assuming it's a public necessity. You would not necessarily have to buy the entire lot, but what you end up doing is you have to pay damages for the diminution in value of that remainder parcel. So you could end up paying the cost of the corridor, you pay a damage for the diminution in value of the remainder parcel, but you don't get ownership of the remainder parcel plus the attorney's fee. So I think that the combination of all those factors is why Mr. Pierce has taken the position that he has, and I think he's made a correct recommendation to the board.
We may be able to reach out for a helpful hand for this buyer before we get into all that, though.
Oh.
And that's what I want to do if we can.
Yes, sir. That's very positive, and I endorse that.
Well, how much time you gonna need, when you know?
Well, let's see. Clay, we're going to be opening some requests for proposals for the project coming up, aren't we? Is it in July or early August that we? August, okay. So there would be 30 days we could be working on right now. What do you think, Clay?
I think that you do have a window of opportunity to, certainly if he's amenable to something that we propose and we can move forward. But you do reach a window of, my construction drawings are in the process of being complete now, not including his piece. So worst case scenario, we could drag that on into September, October before they start actual construction, and we may be able to do some sort of change order to change that curvature of the road right there. But you do reach a point of, some point in the construction that you're at a point of no return.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So it's a short window, and
Yeah.
I would really want you to give me a scenario to present to him, how it would look.
Yes, and I'll be happy to sit with you, and we'll figure out what that package looks like going to him for his presentation.
Okay. Good.
Thank you,
Good. Thank you.
thank you. Oh, we got a vote? We ain't got no vote on that.
No, there's no
No
one.
motion, just
I don't think
reporting.
it's an action item.
No action items there.
Go ahead.
And that's all I have for Mr. Pierce's report, Commissioner.
Okay. All right, tell them to keep on swimming. Next on the agenda be Mr. Michael Marone, County Coordinator Report.
All right, Commissioners. Item number 1, at your June 18th meeting, the board directed me to schedule a workshop to discuss the new facility construction project at Weems Memorial. After conferring with the necessary attendees and reviewing the available dates for this meeting room, the best and soonest date is Monday, upcoming Monday, July 8th at 2 p.m. Scheduled to attend is the Clerk's Finance Office, Mr. Joe Bynum, your project architect, Mrs. Shanina Forbes from USDA, Mr. Cannington, your CEO, along with the Weems Board of Directors, and Dr. Conrad, your emergency room doctor. Unfortunately, Mr. Nick Hill from Adams Consulting is unable to attend due to scheduling conflict. However, he would like to schedule a conference call with staff, and staff being myself and Attorney Schuler, to get an update on the project and offer any assistance that he can. The main purpose of the workshop is to decide a budget and the scope for the new facility construction project. Board action to authorize the workshop. And it is a public workshop. Someone told me I wasn't clear about that, so the public is welcome to attend.
Pleasure to vote.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'm not gonna be available July the 8th, so I won't be here. I can maybe attend by phone or something if I need to. I'm scheduled to take my aunt out of town for some medical treatment, so I can't be here.
You know, FaceTime?
I can FaceTime. Y'all wouldn't like it though.
Pleasure to vote.
Motion to approve.
I got a
Second.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Burke. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Pass.
We already addressed, I'm sorry?
That pass unanimous.
Okay. We already addressed item number 2. Item number 3, Mr. Chairman, is what you were referring to this morning earlier. At your last meeting, I asked the board to consider providing me with some assistance with my role as county liaison to Weems Memorial. As I explained at the last meeting, there are multiple Weems facility capital projects, such as the replacement roof on the current hospital building, that requires direct board supervision. So the board suggested I present a proposal at this meeting. Well, I propose that the board authorize a change in the current status of the interim plant operations director, Ms. Nicole Sheppy, from an employee that is supervised by the hospital CEO and the board of directors to an independent contractor that reports directly to the Board of County Commissioners and myself. She will remain the hospital's plant operation director, therefore collaborating with the Weems CEO regarding facility and safety issues and her other current duties. On special capital projects, Ms. Sheppy will also coordinate with the appropriate architects, contractors, etc., and will serve as the assistant county liaison to Weems, which may include attending directors' meetings and assisting me with issues beyond plant operations. Mr. Joe Bynum, your architect of record for the new facility project, sent an email stating that based on his review of her education and work experience, she could fill the role of the USDA's project representative for the new facility project. I feel the USDA requirements are equal to or exceeds any other project that Ms. Sheppy would be overseeing for the county. I forwarded this email along with other pertinent information to Attorney Schuler with the anticipation that the board will proceed with this request today and a contract will be completed and signed before your July 8th workshop. As it relates to the contract amount, her current salary at Weems is approximately $55,000 plus benefits. So I recommend a 1-year contract for $60,000 with a 2nd-year renewal clause. This contract should be funded from the Weems operational funds, not from the capital reserve funds that Weems receives from the healthcare 1-cent sales tax. Furthermore, I suggest that this board send a directive to the hospital CEO that a similar hospital employee position is not created or funded. If the board proceeds with this proposal today, a separate motion is needed to authorize Mr. Bynum to send Ms. Sheppy's information to USDA for their approval to allow her to serve as the project representative. Ms. Sheppy's here if you'd like her to approach the podium in case you have any questions or comments for her.
Come up, mister. I mean, I really don't either. You got anything you wanted to say?
I'm
Let
happy
me
to.
get your name. for the record.
Nicole Cheppy. I'm vested interest in this community and I'm happy to serve in whatever roles I possibly can to see forward progress.
And you fine with this proposal?
Well, I haven't read it completely, but in theory, yes.
I'd like to see it done because, just like I said this morning, them buildings belong to Franklin County. They don't belong to the hospital. The CEO works for the hospital. The buildings belong to Franklin County. And it's up to us to keep them buildings. It's our job to keep them buildings going. It's not that CEO, I mean, that's not really part of his job, but he was doing it. But we should be over that function. It's like this in Kodak, when something happened to the Kodak, we supposed to take care. I mean, that should be coming directly through us, this board or something. a pleasure to vote on it. And,
I say move.
okay. I got a motion,
Yeah, it's a motion to approve this.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Burt.
Second, but I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Michael, the way I'm reading this, there's still gonna be another.
Wait a minute, just a minute, I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Burt, second by Commissioner Jones. Discussion, go ahead.
The way I'm reading this, is it still gonna be another approval of her from USDA?
Yes.
Okay,
That's right.
I'll make sure I was reading it right.
Yes, to
Mr.
further
Chairman,
that.
if I might,
Oh,
there are
Yes,
actually two different, not just the USDA. I'm working with ACA through the law firm for TMH. They have identified for me a correct contact person at ACA that I can call and discuss with them to make sure that there's not any ACA barrier to the plant manager of the hospital being under the supervision of the county commission and not the CEO. I'm not anticipating a problem, but I would like to identify and get a response back from the two governing agencies, USDA being one governing agency and ACA being the other. If there's a problem, I will inform the board.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
yes. And, you know, you, go ahead, you do.
Yep, I'm done.
It's like this with me. A CEO or a doctor, they CEOs and they doctors. I don't see where they got no business. I mean, they might, a lot of people know a lot about everything, but they focus is to be a doctor or a CEO. We need somebody focused on a billing, with billing knowledge. That gonna report back to us and let us know what's going on.
Yeah.
Cause that building, you know, storm season is back in and we done put work in the hospital and the roof's not fixed. That's a no-no. That's a no-no. I mean, you can't, you're spending a lot of money on, and it can rain on the work you done. Y'all ready to vote?
I
One
need to talk.
I'm sorry.
question, one
Go ahead.
thing, real quick, Mr. Chairman. Should the motion not be, include the two comments that the attorney made contingent upon the
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
sure, yeah.
I will say, I'm sorry.
Contingent on that.
Yeah.
If I may, the Attorney Schuler is dealing with the ACA, talking to Joe Bynum, he's pretty confident, he stated that in his email, that there shouldn't be a problem with USDA, her serving that role. Let me ask Attorney Schuler a question before we move on. So Joe had asked that we would need a motion for that. We can do this as part of one motion for them to approve the contract and then send her stuff to USDA?
I think your comment to the board was I need to do two
I
motions.
prefer two motions, okay, yeah, all right. So this motion would be just approving and authorizing the attorney to move forward with her contract and negotiations, and then I'll need a separate one for Mr. Bynum to be able to send her information to USDA for approval as, for that role.
With regard to her contract negotiations, Mr. Chairman, I see you as being specifically accountable to the board and not confused about who your directives are. It's us. I think that's the spirit of this entire role. I also see that you be put in the lineup of the directors of the departments, just like the other guys are here in PAM, okay? So you come to our meetings every other Tuesday. And you are going to be able to give us good project-specific information by title. We have an operations project to put new plaster on a wall. You're going to tell us about that. You're going to tell us about that roof, and you're going to be facilitating and working with the architect in the planning of our new potential building and really be intimately involved in that. I believe that's the spirit of everything that we're talking about here, if you gentlemen agree too. I just want to make that, I just want to amalgamate all the whole things we're talking about. So you are us, working with us.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I understand the spirit Commissioner Bolt is making these comments, and I'll take that into consideration and into heart when I'm drafting this contract. But just from a technical standpoint, department heads or county employees, this person actually would be an independent contractor to the county.
Yes, okay.
Just to clarify, I think
Okay.
what Commissioner Bolt first approached me, what he wanted to make sure is that every meeting, just like he gets a report from his department directors, he also wants there to be an agenda to give an update as to whatever projects are going on.
That's right,
That's what he
exactly.
meant.
Yeah, I want you here.
I just want to clarify that for you, that's what he told me earlier.
And the
Yes.
spirit of is not in being adversarial to anybody in that hospital building. Keep them informed at the same quality and level that you're keeping us informed. And I think you're helping, a big helping facilitator for this whole issue.
Yes, sir.
If you can't come up with a price for the hospital, just think of an urgent care like I told you this morning,
Yes, sir.
like we discussed.
Yes, sir.
One thing I'm gonna ask you, I'm finna vote, but I wanna ask you something. You gonna get the job, or you got two, and okay. But what I would like to see, and asking you, anything, just don't hold back to come tell us if you think you got a problem. I mean, just let somebody, Michael or somebody, just don't wait 2 months, 3 months. Just come to us,
Yes, sir.
and we can work on it, you know. We can't, you can't help cause what happened. I mean, if you see something and you think it needs reported, just report it.
Yes,
Don't
sir.
hold back, just do what you gotta do.
I'll be very direct.
Get your thing. Y'all ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous. Welcome aboard.
The second motion I would like is to authorize Mr. Bynum to forward her information to USDA so she can serve in the role of the project representative.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. And vote, I guess. Any more discussion on that? Y'all ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous. If you have any kind of problem, just let us know.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
ma'am.
Ms. Shepherd.
Mr. Chairman, just as a point of clarification on the calendaring of this, Mr. Morone had mentioned he wants this contract ready before the July 8th workshop, but I'm not certain I can represent to the board that you'll have an answer back from both USDA and ACA by July the 8th.
Well,
I mean, I can draft a contract, but I don't know that we'll have a response back from those agencies by July the 8th.
how about if we said as soon as, you know, soon as possible after you get the,
That's the
get
way
your
I'm-
information?
Yes, that's why I'm reading and interpreting the board's motion was
Yeah, I mean, you.
to
if
move
they-
forward, subject to those two approvals. I
Yeah.
just want, from the timing
Whenever
standpoint,
they
bring that
bring
to the
you,
board's attention.
you can't move till they move, but we understand that. So, whenever they get you your information, you'll get it back to us. But
Yes, sir.
in the meantime, can she be working? Mr. Shute?
Not based on the board's motion. I mean, y'all appointed her to that role subject to approval by USDA and ACA. So the way I would interpret the board's actions is she officially assumes those new duties once she receives that agency approval.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I mean, maybe y'all could have her some temporary interim role to perform prior to that. I mean, I'll explore that issue, but as far as being formally the project manager, I think that depends on the ACA.
No, what
and
I'm talking
USDA.
about is, she can go to work temporary?
I think we can work out some interim role.
Yeah, I don't want nobody to be knocked off.
Yes, sir.
Just trying to keep from losing time.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioners, item number 4, attached to my report is a copy of the Career Source Gulf Coast 2019-2020 budget. Ms. Kim Bodine, the Executive Director, has explained at prior meetings that it is a state requirement to present the budget to all of our counties served by her agency every year. There is a significant increase in her budget, over 300%, due to the funding of the WIOA National Dislocated Workers Grant. This is a program that has allowed residents that lost their jobs or otherwise displaced due to Hurricane Michael to be hired and placed in jobs that assist Franklin, Gulf, Bay counties, along with the cities located in each of those counties. Board action to approve the Career Service Gulf Coast 2019-2020 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. Discussion. How long that program supposed to last?
That's a good question. Every time I ask, the answer is until the money runs out.
Okay.
That's it. That's it.
So-
I keep it, because, you know, we have, between our Parks and Rec, the courthouse has two, Parks and Rec has quite a few.
Yeah.
And it's really helpful, it really is.
Well, the reason I was asking, 'cause some of them, people who working, how long we gonna work? And you know, it looked kinda bad for a commissioner to say, I don't know. but
Yeah.
I just have to, I told my own head, I don't know.
What I have done is gave the local office, regional director, whatever it is, I asked Ms. Webb, I said, when you know there are 30 days or 60 days of, no, I think it's like 60 or 90 days left of funding, I need to know right away. Because I need to inform you guys of such so that, you know, you guys will be prepared to answer those questions in the public when it's asked.
So I'm good to say, all I tell them is, you're looking good right now.
Yeah, right now.
Okay, thank you.
You guys voted already?
Y'all ready to vote, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
Also, item number 5 is also for Ms. Kim Bodine. She's requested that the board reappoint Mr. Ted Mosteller to another 3-year term on the Career Service Gulf Coast Workforce Board, representing the private sector. Mr. Mosteller's current term actually expired yesterday. However, he meets the state and federal law for membership and has expressed an interest in continuing his service on this board.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Masters, second by Commissioner Jones. You want it, Mr. Ted? You still want it? Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
Item 6, Commissioners, as I explained at your May 21st meeting, Mr. Currington, your county planner, will be working on the updated land use plan for the Fort Coombs Armory and the surrounding property, which is required every 10 years. The updated plan states that the building will be used as it has been for the past 10 years, and the county will continue to seek funding to bring the building up to current codes, which is the sprinkler system, basically. Attached to my report is the updated plan, board action to approve and submit to the state updated land use plan for Fort Coombs Armory and the surrounding property.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. Did we get any money? Did the governor give us anything?
No.
Or you don't know yet?
No, he didn't,
You didn't?
did not. So
Okay.
actually, I'm working with USDA about possible grant for that.
Okay.
So we'll see where we get with that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
We can skip all the way to item 9. We did 7 and 8 already. Informed the board that I received a 2-week notice of resignation from one of my planning and zoning permit clerks. Due to the current staff shortage in that office, I proceeded with advertising the vacant position to other county offices, and I concurrently advertised the vacancy on the county's website and in the Times. The deadline for application submission is Thursday, July 11th. Board action to ratify advertising the vacant position with county departments and as a public advertisement.
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
Attached to my report are documents from Ms. Portia Sapp, Director of the Division of Aquaculture of Florida's Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. These documents, and I quote her email, have been generated as part of the review process for new aquaculture lease applications submitted to the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services Division of Aquaculture, end quote. The department is currently processing applications as required by Chapter 253 of the Florida statutes. The county has the opportunity to provide comments on and/or to concur with or object to the proposed projects by email or mail before July 20th, 2019. These comments will be used in the department's evaluation of the proposed applications and activities, and the proposed project may be modified as processing of the applications proceeds. Forward me your comments before that deadline, July 20th, so they can get to Ms. Sapp in time. No comments. Item 11, as the board may be aware, the Florida Legislature appropriated $65 million of the Hurricane Housing Recovery Program for the SHIP-eligible local governments affected by Hurricane Michael. Of that $65 million, Franklin County is scheduled to receive $1.2 million. Currently, Ms. Schweitzer, your SHIP administrator, is working with Florida Housing on finalizing a funding agreement and local strategies that will allow the county to spend these funds. Ms. Schweitzer plans to be at your first meeting in August to seek board action for the approval of the agreement and strategies. She may contact you individually to discuss this project further before then.
And that's the one that's going to be able to work on trailers now.
Yeah, that's what
With
we're
this
asking
money.
the state to do. Yeah, that's one of the strategies we're asking the state to look at.
Yeah.
Well, that's huge. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. It is. It depends on what we do spend it on, Commissioner.
That's right.
It might go away really fast.
Hang on, Mike.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, on that contract that Mr. Roll's referring to, Ms. Schweitzer's already forwarded that contract to me. I've already reviewed it and approved it. There's some blank spaces in there for her to create some local policies that Mr. Morone was just referring to, but at this point, she's just going to plug that into the contract, and it'll be ready for your approval when she appears before you at your next meeting.
I think it'd be a good thing if they do work on trailer, because SHIP wasn't working on no trailer before, and,
Yeah.
but they, after the storm, some of the trailers got messed up worse. Some of them were messed up anyway.
If they
Okay.
approve it, and there won't be any restrictions here, like, I mean, if we get this, if we can convince the state to approve it,
Yeah,
there won't be any restrictions about the cities. So
Right.
we'll be able to replace, mobile homes within the two cities. That's something that we haven't been able to do forever. I'm not sure. But yeah.
and I
that's-
guess this would be just like a storm deal till the money gone and it'd be over, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Item 12, board action to ratify the chairman's signature on a certificate of acceptance form for $45,000 Office of Criminal Justice grant for the Sheriff's Office Drug Investigations Officer. The document was overdue at the state office and prevented the Sheriff's Finance Office from proceeding with the grant and accessing the funds.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It passed unanimous.
I inform the board that the chairman, Ms. Pam Brunel, the emergency management director, and myself, we met with Ms. Catherine, pronounce her name wrong, Stempin. She's the president of Duke Energy Florida, and Danny Collins, Duke's community relations specialist, to discuss storm preparation, exchange information, and review concerns. Representatives from each of the cities and the Chamber of Commerce also attended the meeting. One concern I expressed to the Duke representative is, in case of any major outages to the county, the #1 priority is to restore power to Weems Memorial, as there is not a generator that will run the entire facility at this time. We also discussed new possible staging areas, the importance of Duke representatives doing recovery at EOC, left that off, and the importance of two-way communication. That really helped us. But I will say, those two representatives we had up there by the EOC helped a lot, because when I got problems, you guys called me with problems, I called one of them, they had a direct link right into Duke, and we got it fixed like this.
Yeah.
So that helped a whole lot.
And they said, well, the emergency room, which else, they said the Carabel, the clinic got a generator, but other than, y'all, they don't have no generator.
The health department in Carabel has a,
Right.
our clinic over there does
don't
not have a generator at
Well,
all.
that's what I call the clinic, the
Yes,
health
sir.
department. But, yeah, so,
We need to try to put in somewhere for a grant to get one for that.
yeah, they need one.
All right, I'll work on that.
And as we were talking about, they still don't have a cleaning lady out there at the Wings East to clean that place.
Okay, I'll discuss that too.
Yeah, it needs to be cleaned. Somebody needs to go in there and clean it.
All right, Commissioner, I'll work on that for you. Get back to you on that.
Michael, the Pam may be able to help with the generator grant.
Right, I was thinking the same thing.
Hazard.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing, yeah. Okay, but not the cleaning.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Why they ain't got nobody clean it?
I don't know, it
I
ain't
don't-
been, it's not been nobody going out there cleaning that for a long time. I was out there yesterday, it needs cleaning.
Yeah, so that,
Smile, Nicole.
Yeah, that-
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There's your first project.
yeah, you need,
And it's not right for the nurses and the doctors and to have to clean it.
no, that part of the safety.
Yep.
Cleanliness, you got to be public safety. Okay.
Okay, Commissioners, almost there. Item 14, currently Commissioner Jones serves as the county's representative on the ARPC's Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board. There's a vacant seat on that board for another appointee. They prefer a commissioner. So is the board willing to appoint another commissioner to that vacant seat in case Commissioner Jones is unable to attend one of the quarterly meetings?
Mr. Burke,
I'll make a motion to nominate Mr. Burt Bolt.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish.
I second it.
Second by Commissioner Mass. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It passed unanimously.
Thank you.
And that's not you, Josh. That is, who helps out from ARPC on that? Quinn.
Quentin,
Okay.
Quentin Eastbrook.
Yes, so I'll put, Commissioner, I'll have Quentin contact you and just
Okay.
give you an update.
And it's actually gonna be listed as an alternate.
As alternate, that's how it works? Okay, thank you.
Should I be
As a
going to the
second-
meetings in order to be up to speed if I am an
It
alternate?
definitely won't hurt you at all.
Say
Yes,
again?
sir. It won't, yes, it'll be a good thing.
I'll be there with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I knew you wanted that.
Yeah.
It's a good
Yeah, if you
program.
wanna
Yeah,
go, you
yeah,
go.
that's a big picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
You got
Good.
plenty of time.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so item 15, the board information I received on June 28th FDOT press release that states, drivers will incur traffic disruption on the following state roads in the Big Bend area as crews perform construction and maintenance activities. In preparation for the Independence Day holiday weekend, there will be no lane closures or other activities that impede traffic on state roads from 9 a.m. Central Time Wednesday, July 3rd, to 12:01 a.m. Central Time Monday, July 8th. One of the state roads referred to in the quote is US 98 in Franklin County. So basically, after, tomorrow morning, is that what they're saying?
Yep.
No lane closures, everybody can drive freely within the speed limit to and from the county to enjoy all our celebrations across the county for July 4th, Independence Day.
Right, they done done a little bit of work to that thing, to that.
Yes, yes, I think they're in the process now of what I explained, was it last meeting from Carter? You know, where they're actually finished the shoulder work and they're starting to actually pave and level everything up. I think they're actually at that point, Commissioner, so. And finally, from the board, that Bay scallop season started yesterday and will continue until Tuesday, September 24th. FWC asks that scallop shells are not discarded in inshore water areas commonly used for recreational activities. For additional information on bag limits and other regulations, visit myfwc.com/fishing and click on saltwater fishing, recreational regulations. Then finally, the crabs, shrimp, and shellfish tab. And I
Where you
included a
get-
copy of that press release to you guys as part of your packets also.
Where
I
you
think-
catch colors at in Franklin County?
Lanark
Commissioner,
Village.
I was gonna say, Commissioner Parrish kind of asked me a question like that on that yesterday. We were talking about where exactly will we be catching these scallops, but,
Out in front of Lanark, all the way down to Alligator Point.
really? Good size too, Commissioner?
Yep,
Wow,
when they there.
St. Joe Gulf County doesn't open up until August,
oh, yeah,
a certain date until September, so they only got like a month there.
yeah, so, we got a pretty decent season, so. And Commissioner, that's it for my report.
Do you have to have a license for that?
Yeah, saltwater license.
Okay. All right, anybody got anything for Mr. Maroon?
Michael, would you invite ACA and USDA to come to our July 8th
hospital planning.
I did invite USDA. Mrs. Ford says she's gonna try her best to make it, and see if she could change around the schedule, so she's on there
Okay.
to do that. ACA, I actually have to go through, cause Attorney Schuler has, contact, he just stated, so maybe we'll find someone from there, that we could.
Yeah, I think reaching out is really important to get them involved in, so they can do it.
All right, keep up the good work, Mr. Michael.
Yes, sir.
The next on the agenda be Mr. Michael Schuler.
Good morning, Commissioners. The only remaining action item of my report is approval of the ARPC contract for the GIS mapping services. This is an ongoing annual contract in the amount of up to $10,000 annually for continued improvements and maintenance of the GIS map that you just had a presentation on here this morning. There is a termination provision for convenience and without liability that runs in favor of both parties, and in the event we have any conflict, which I don't expect that there would, but I put that in as a standard provision of all contracts. That venue exclusively would be here in Franklin County. The contract otherwise is acceptable for recommendation by myself to the board for your consideration.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Parrish. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
And Commissioners, I have some informational items that I provided to you. Does any commissioner have a question for me about those items? Otherwise, I will not make a presentation on them.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
Attorney, I don't have a question, but I do want to clarify,
Yes, sir.
just for the public's knowledge. Our current animal control ordinance as it relates to dogs, we do have a leash law.
That is correct.
We don't have the voice command provisions probably never going to be incurred at one of our public beaches. So I think that, I know as we're going through this, if the board doesn't mind, I would like to be able to take this issue to TDC to maybe do an informational campaign to make sure that everybody knows what the ordinance is, that it is a leash law for our public beaches. I think that would help that conversation a whole lot.
That is an excellent suggestion.
Agreed.
And I'm hoping we use it
Yep.
because, you know, voice command is good, but voice command don't work all the time. I mean, it just don't work
No.
all the time.
Well,
Some of them dogs,
no, that don't work.
they can't hear when they get hot. So. Okay. But we need to, you know, ain't no need to let nobody get bit behind no little issue like that behind, you know, it's a voice made, it's a voice or it's a leash.
Yeah.
They put the dog on a leash, that's all to it, then.
Sure, and we're a pet-friendly county,
Yeah.
and we want to emphasize that.
Yeah,
But you're
we already-
just like you
we
say,
already-
the leash is something it's tangible and you can see.
You can control that.
I like some dogs, but I do some people.
Mhm.
And I think it's important to be able to have good, functional, pet-friendly beaches.
Yeah, we already, like you said, we already giving them the benefit of the doubt
Sure.
by letting them be there. And a little leash ain't gonna hurt them. Cause the first thing, you got a dog. Well, if he big, he can be the gentle person in the world, but they gonna be scared of a big dog, kids and grown folks too. And, you know, that's just part of life. So you can tell him to stop and he probably run into play. And that's, it get out of control. Okay, any more?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? Attorney Schuler, does the board need to vote, make a motion and vote on that for me to be able to take that TDC, or can I do it under board direction?
I think as the chairman of the TDC yourself, Commissioner Jones, I mean, if you want board support, then a motion would be appropriate, but I think as the chairman of that TDC, you have the authority to bring that issue to them,
Okay.
get their recommendation, then bring it back to the board for consideration.
All right,
So it's your choice.
no, I'm good.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, cause we need, bottom line, after you take it back, we can vote whether one or the other.
Yes, sir. He's going to bring back to you a recommendation from the TDC, is what I'm understanding from
Right.
Commissioner Jones.
Right.
It's, ain't no recommendation when it's already the law for the lease.
Well,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
he's referring to the educational, I'm sorry,
Right.
Commissioner.
No, you're right.
He's
That's-
referring to having the TDC fund an educational
Oh, okay,
campaign,
to tell people.
present brochures to the realtors on the island and
Yeah.
other people that provide accommodations and in restaurants, so that the visiting tourist, and will understand the requirements of the local leash law.
Yeah,
To help
maybe-
bring them into compliance as opposed to having to resort to enforcement. So the educational campaign initially.
Maybe it'll come out better if we mail out to all the people too. I mean, it costs a little more money, but
We also have an email,
email. as well.
expanding email thing that the TDC has anyway from the people that visit and sign our visitor logs and express interest, so that we could certainly do an email blast as well.
And just as a point of further clarification, if I may, Mr. Chairman, we absolutely have a leash law. That is the general rule of law in Franklin County. There are some limited exceptions that allow voice control, but none of those limited exceptions apply to a setting like the public beach on St. George Island. I mean, it's more limited to dog shows and training and obedience schools, law enforcement, animals, things of that nature. But just letting your dog run loose on the beach would be a violation of the leash law of Franklin County.
Okay. All righty, any more commissioner comment?
Just two. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I think Smokey's suggestion was very well taken about the GIS article, and I'm likely going to write one, but there might be some cons, so I think I'd like to sleep on it first.
When do you wake up?
Wow.
Oh, boy.
Open up yourself, because somebody could say you already did, but I won't be the one.
Yeah, oh, Denise,
Oh, just two things. I just wanted to congratulate Ricky Jones on some of the attributes that he got at the Florida Association of Counties. Certified County Commissioner graduate. I know all of the gentlemen here in the dais are advanced graduates of that school. I plan to and look forward to doing the same thing. And also, it was remarkable to me, on a Sunday morning, we all sat around breakfast tables within our districts, and the gentlemen, all the commissioners, tapped Ricky to be on the board for the Florida Association of Counties, and I just appreciated that too. Secondly, I just wanted to reinforce Commissioner Parrish's plea about folks, it's a beautiful day here in Franklin County and the sunshine is great, but the storm threats are huge. And as he said, yes, if you're gonna stay by yourself during a storm, you better be self-sufficient. But the other side of this is that when we have a mandatory evacuation requirement here in this county, it needs to be obeyed because of the worry and the threat of your safety to other emergency personnel, and to potentially the dilution of our resources is huge. And I just want people to really pay attention to some of these storm warnings and get out and get safe.
Mr. Chairman, our boys were playing this morning in the double A that we were talking about. They actually did wind up losing Avon Park, but they're still second place, so they're still going on to the World Series. They started playing at 9 this morning when we started meeting. They did lose that contest, but they are still advancing to the World Series.
all right. Meeting adjourned.